Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. NFL Thursday Night Football. Got a division rivalry here with the Chargers at home taking on the Denver Broncos. Pretty big game here in this one. I'm going to be going through best bets and player prop projections for this one to help you guys get everything you need to make the bets that you want to put down here for Thursday Night Football. Also had a winner finally in the giveaway, and I can't believe we only had one winner in the giveaway, which was give me the first touchdown for each of the Bears and the Vikings. It was Keenan Allen, it was Jay Jetta, Justin Jefferson, and only one person had that comment, that specific combination. Buds McGee, 30309. Either way, Buds, hit me up either on Twitter or Discord at JL Boogie, and we'll get you that free month in the VIP. We had a ton of Keenan Allen guesses and a ton of Jay Jet guesses, and only one person who put them together in the same combo. So go ahead and hit me up, like I said, at JL Boogie on Twitter and Discord, and I'll go ahead and get you that free month. So let's go ahead and jump into these player props I have. If that all sounds good, give that video a like. Let's get right into it. As we get into what I'm looking at for this game, reminder that we have the live show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern every single day. And on Mondays and Thursdays, we go through football in addition to all the NBA stuff that we're doing. So definitely jump in there with any NFL or NBA bets that you have for a big slate on Thursday in the NBA as well. And we'll go through all of that stuff together, help us find the best value. So what am I looking at for this game here between what I think is going to be a pretty choppy, close, defensive-minded game between the Broncos and the Chargers here? Starting with the offense for the Broncos. It's not good according to the metrics, and you can make the argument, especially over the last couple of weeks, it's kind of not that good. It's on the down slope anyway when it comes to the way it's been playing offense. Bo Nix was having a really good time of things prior to the last 2 weeks, and we'll talk about that in player props here in just a minute. The passing yards and EPA right next to each other for a reason, and the same for the rush and the rush EPA. Their offensive line, really good in terms of limiting pressure on Bo Nix, but not very good, right middle of the pack in terms of its adjusted yards before contact, and we still don't really know who we're going to see in the backfield for Denver moving forward. Probably some Bo Nix rushing yards are a look here in this one. Once again, we'll go over that in just a second. And the Chargers defense, which we need to give it a few caveats here because it's been awesome all season, kind of been on the downslope as well in the last 4 weeks. And they've had an incredibly tough last 4 weeks of the schedule there, playing a lot of good teams. KC, also got Baltimore on the schedule there, beat the Falcons, and then couldn't really handle the Bucs at all. Got smacked last week against them. And in those last 4 weeks, all of this stuff is a lot worse looking than it is here, where they're 10th in pass yards and 7th in pass EPA on the season. In the last 4 weeks, down to 26th in pass EPA. And if you look at the rush yards, 19th, and teams have had a bit more success running on them than passing. The rush EPA is still very good, and I would argue that their rush defense is actually better overall than their pass defense, but they've also been 23rd in rush EPA over the last 4 games. So do with that what you will. I'm not impressed by the Falcons offense. The Ravens are tough. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, and the Bucs still have a very good aerial pass attack despite the fact that they're so hurt. So we'll give the Chargers maybe a little bit of a break based on schedule, but they should still be better than they've been in the last 4 weeks. Bottom 5, 6 in the league in terms of EPA per play. They've got to be better than that if they're going to go anywhere. So I'm not going to give them too much of the benefit of the doubt because they're supposed to be able to hang with teams like the ones that smacked them over the last 4 weeks. On the other side of the ball, I think that this Broncos defense continues to show us that it is super legit as well. It's number 1 in pass EPA, number 4 in rush EPA, and that's been pretty consistent. You look at the last 4 weeks for them or the last 6 weeks for them, they are 1st in pass EPA, 4th in rush EPA. This is where they sit. These are very accurate rankings for them in terms of the expected points added per play. Passing yards, they've given up a few more recently, and I was on this last week too, saying Denver's rush defense looks a little bit better than its pass defense. It looks really good right now. And if you look at their adjusted yards before contact on defense, it is number 1 in the league for a reason. They are not allowing the offensive line against them to push them back at all. They're holding their blocks. They're looking really, really good in that sense, but they're also dominating in the pass. They are 5th in the amount that they're blitzing, their blitz rate overall, and they are 2nd in their pressure percentage. So they're getting a ton of pressure with blitzes, sometimes without blitzes. And when you've got a pass defense like they do with the corners that they have, Pat Surtain should be in there and good to go, despite leaving the game a little bit early last week. I still think that this is going to be a pass defense that's very difficult to pass on. Herbert did really well against them, according, relevant to his season up to that point. What was it, 8 weeks ago when they played? He did have a pretty good game for his numbers, actually recorded more passing yards in that one than he did in the other ones in most other games this season, and including his average. So the pass EPA, the pass yards, it's not good for them. But in the last 4 weeks, as they've been losing, they've actually had a higher pass play percentage than normal. They've been 5th, in terms of pass play percentage over the last 3 weeks. and they still haven't been able to get very many passing yards. Justin Herbert's gone clean under this in all of the last 4 weeks for his passing prop for this one on Thursday night. And the rushing for them also hasn't been great. The adjusted yards before contact, 18th. They are giving up about 25th in pressure percentage on Herbert. So he doesn't have much time to throw. Again, they played some really good defenses in the Ravens and the Falcons, and I was going to say the Chiefs, but you could even give the Falcons defense somewhat of a pass, although its pass offense is bad, man. So I don't really know where we're at. It's kind of a two teams that are going in the wrong direction, to be honest with you. We'll see which one of them is able to pull out, but I think it's going to be kind of an ugly game. Well, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about a guy at least that I like for an over here, and that's Courtland Sutton. And you can actually get plus money if you want to take him for 6 receptions. I still like the yards a little bit better against the Chargers defense. They are worse allowing yards than they are receptions. So if you do catch one against them, you can go pretty deep with it. But he had 70-plus receiving yards in 6 straight before this Colts debacle last week for the Broncos, where Bo Nix threw 3 interceptions. I call it a debacle, at least on the offensive side of the ball for Denver, where it just wasn't pretty, right? And the defense had to do a lot of the pick-me-up for them last week against Indy. He's had 8 targets at least in 7 straight games. That includes last week, where he only caught the 4 balls and had 9 targets against the Colts, but still 9 of them, right? 6 targets versus the Chargers. This is about 8 weeks ago, and this is really before the surge began for Courtland Sutton, where he and Bo Nix became sort of a lot more on the same page, let's say, and a lot more united in their plays together. He still had 6 targets, only caught 4 balls for like 53 yards. He had 151 unrealized air yards, meaning that when he was running down the field, and even when he didn't catch a ball, a total amount of yards that he was running and trying to catch was about 151. So there was at least one of those balls gets caught, and he's going over this prop that he just failed to go over against the Chargers the last time they played. And that's why I also like the yards. Like I said, the Chargers 11th most yards to wide receivers, but they're still in the top half of the league in terms of limiting receptions. So this is a defense that's shown a lot of vulnerability over the last 4 weeks, and there isn't too much that's changing in the way of health for them. So I still think Courtland Sutton is a very good play here, who has proven to be a clear-cut wide receiver 1 now for this Broncos squad. Bo Nix, I'm scared of going over yards. He has not looked like himself in the last couple of weeks. And I say himself, I mean the himself of 6 weeks prior to that, where he had a really good number 6 weeks in a row, came back in the last 2 weeks, and you can see 5 INTs in the last 2 weeks, including the 3 last week against the Colts, who were in the bottom half of the league in interceptions before last week and moved up to the top 12 in interceptions because Bo Nix handed them 3 of them. But the Chargers, they are sliding in the last 4 games. So I can understand a desire to see this as a get-right game for Bo Nix. But once again, this is a divisional matchup towards the end of the season that's important for both teams that I'm seeing as somewhat cautious for both sides. And I don't necessarily even have a pick for a side in this one. The total is at 42.5. Don't love that either. Don't think there's an implied implication that there's going to be very many points scored in this one. I would consider the rush yards for Bo Nix. This is a team giving up the 10th most rushing yards to QBs for the Chargers, which is a little bit weird when you think about their lack of pressure on the quarterback, but quarterbacks are still able to get out and run against them. Bo Nix has not been doing that quite as much over the last 4 weeks. We saw his rushing prop, though, get as high as like 38.5 yards, coming all the way back down to 21.5. I think that's where you're going to find the most value taking an over for Nix. I still don't even have passing yards as I record this on Wednesday for you guys, or excuse me, rushing yards rather, for any Broncos running backs. All I have is rushing yards for Bo Nix at 21.5. So I can't even really talk about them, and I wouldn't really have much to say if I did, because I don't know who's going to get the bulk of carries, although McLaughlin's been doing his thing. You never know, health included. But I think Kamani Vidal is a good look here in the backfield for the Chargers. And he and Gus Edwards still have a very similarly priced and listed prop here for the rushing yards. Yet Kamani Vidal has been the number 1 back in terms of the snap share for the last 2 weeks since we've had no J.K. Dobbins now for the season. He's had 53 snaps in the game in week 14. Last week, week 15, 67% of the snaps. So, and it's 53% of the snaps, not 53 snaps. And to be fair, they've also been playing from behind the last 2 weeks. He's a better receiver than Gus the Bus, but I don't think that the Chargers are going to have very much success running the ball at all with their starting back. So I think they're going to get him in there anyway. And then you're talking about a few more draws. And as long as he has the volume, like if he gets the like 10 to 12 carries that it would take to get him to about 60% snap share, then we're still good. And I think 60% is what we're going to see now, because Gus has been all right, but he hasn't been better than Kamani, and he has not been able to catch the ball very well at all. So I think that's all going to lead to a higher snap share for Kamani. And if, like I said, we get to 10 rushing yards or rushing attempts for him, 27, I mean, if you get to 8, 27.5 should be very doable. You don't even have to get 8 yards or 4 yards a carry in that standpoint. So I think 8 rushes is a good projection for him. That should be enough for him to get the 28 yards that we need here. I got to be honest, I'm a little bit gun shy just going for Justin Herbert props, even an under specifically, against a very good, if not the best pass defense in the league, because that's what I thought last time. And he did me dirty. And their pass play percentage was way lower coming into last game as well. They were still running the ball a ton. It seemed like an ideal matchup for a guy like Jim Harbaugh to really just keep running the ball, and had two healthy running backs, as Dobbins and Gus the Bus were both available. But it didn't happen. And they passed and they zagged on the zig, and that threw us for a loop. And that's what got us burnt by about 237 pass yards for Herbert in the last game versus this Broncos defense. The Broncos been a little bit more vulnerable to the pass over the last 3 to 4 weeks, but they've still been the same team as at the top of the league in terms of EPA. While some of the results haven't been the same and they've given up a few more yards over the last 3 to 4 weeks, they're still very good at stopping it. And if they get the lead, teams are going to have to pass on them again. And that's what I wouldn't trust here, because I don't think Herbert and company, or Vidal or Gus the Bus or anybody they bring out there, is going to have success running against Denver's rush defense. So I think they're going to have to pass. And that's where I just get scared that anything can happen at that point. Could easily get backdoored if he's got 190 yards going into, say, like the fourth quarter. It's deep in the fourth quarter and he's still at about 200. I could still see him getting 30 to 40 on a last-second drive that they're trying to either tie things up or come back. I just don't trust it. And like I said, this total at 42.5, it's just indicating to me there's going to be some nastiness in this game on a Thursday night. I'm really not liking taking too many overs in this one. So who would you take for a wide receiver for the Chargers? It's really between Ladd and Huge, right? And Will Dissly, their stud tight end, who has built a really great relationship with Herbert, is out again for the second straight week. So now we're talking about McConkey, Ladd, and Huge, Quentin Johnston. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen McConkey at 19 targets, 14 receptions total, and Johnston 17 targets, 10 receptions total over the last 2 games. So the best thing I got for you here is, it sucks because Ladd probably won't get the Surtain matchup, which would lead you to go, maybe he'll stay in the slot and be able to avoid a really tough matchup with Pat Surtain, in which case Huge will be on the outside getting shut down by him. I do lean strongly to Ladd, even though his props are higher. And I do think you could still probably take Huge at 41.5 yards. These are going to be two dudes getting 8+ reception or targets rather in this game. Huge has the drops problems. Ladd's been very reliable, even though he didn't get the yards last week. I think you could probably get Ladd 53.5 over and feel pretty good about it. Huge at 41.5. I think it's also a decent play, but according to the man coverage here that we're going to see from Denver, Ladd is way, way better in terms of beating man stuff than is Huge. So that's another reason to really prefer the slot guy against the man coverage. He'll have a little bit more wiggle room. The receptions are high at 7, but I think you can take him for the yards as well at 53.5. Don't forget, we got the live show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Bring your bets and jump in the comments. Hope to see you guys there. One more reminder to buds, hit me up, Twitter or Discord at JLBoogie, and I'll help you get a free month in the VIP, winning some money in the NBA. Very happy to say 3 straight winning nights as we talk here. Going to be looking at that stuff for Thursday, so check out the NBA best bets and projections as well. And until I see y'all next, happy betting.